And I have my friend here, Brandy Gray, Tech Sergeant Gray for everybody who's in the Air Force or wants to join the Air Force. Well, she's an Air Force recruiter here in Georgia. In what part? Marietta, Georgia.
We're part of the 336 recruiting squadron. We're actually attached to Moody is my home base, Moody Air Force Base. But we recruit, I specifically recruit out of the city of Marietta.
There you go. And we're just going to be going over some questions that some people have asked me to ask her, and just some different things about how to join the Air Force in the recruiting process. So what is the first step when someone comes into your office? Like, what is the first step they do when they see you?
So the first thing that they do when they see me, well, of course, first they want to bring in their driver's license, their social security card, birth certificate, and high school diploma. Those are the main items that somebody wants to bring in when they're trying to join the Air Force.
Okay.
Now, if they're not a high school graduate, then that's something that we also take into consideration, because a high school graduate is not going to have a
diploma.
Correct.
Right.
So then they would come in with their driver's license, if they have a driver's license. If not, then you would want to bring a high school ID or some type of photo ID in case they don't have the driver's license. Now, with that, if they don't have a driver's license, it's going to make the process that much harder.
Okay.
Because, you know, majority of the jobs that we offer in the Air Force, you want to have a driver's license.
You need to drive.
Exactly. So there are some jobs that you can get, like administrative jobs, but that's not the Air Force's mission. I mean, if we had a bunch of administrative positions, then what force would we have to dominate the skies?
Right.
You know.
Okay, so how would they join? Say they're not an American citizen or they haven't graduated high school. They can still join, though, right?
If they're not an American citizen, there would be some additional documents that we would need. Like if they have a permanent residence card, then we would need to see that.
Okay.
And you said, what was the other?
If they're not a high school graduate.
So yeah, you can join. If you're not a high school graduate, so the legal age to join the Air Force is 17.
Right.
You have to be at least 17, and if you are 17, you have to have parental consent from both parents.
Okay.
If you don't have parental consent, then there's ways that we can potentially get, you know, like let's say if you were joining, and for instance, or if I was joining, and my mom was deceased and I lived with my dad, then I would have to show, you know, potentially proof that my mom is deceased, or get a certified letter from my dad, a notarized letter from my dad saying that he can't obtain parental consent from my mom.
Got you.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then, so once they come in with all those documents, what's next? Is it height and weight? Is it what's the next step?
So any branch that you join, whether it's Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, you always want to make sure that you are within your height and weight standards. And a lot of that information is on the airforce.com website. It'll tell you how tall you need to be for your weight, or how much your weight needs to be for your height.
Okay.
So I would recommend a lot of people do that, because you save a lot of recruiters time.
Right.
Knowing where you fall within the standards first. If you don't know, then make sure that you do your own research to find out that information. Research on your height and weight, research on your job, research just period on what the Air Force offers.
Okay.
Because you can't come into a recruiting office and expect the recruiter to give you every single bit of detail. It's not going to happen that way. And we get that a lot of times.
And since you mentioned jobs, how are jobs picked for the individual, or how do they go about picking jobs? I know it has a lot to do with their ASVAB scores.
Right. So I can only speak for the Air Force in particular, because anybody who's taken the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Exam, they'll see once they get their results that their scores are broken down by certain frames, if you will. And in particular to the Air Force, it's broken down in the mechanical, the administrative, general health and sciences, and the electrical. So you have a score for each category, and then you have your overall score. Well, each of those scores pertain to a job that is within the Air Force. So every job in the Air Force falls within one of those 4 categories. And so, I mean, essentially the highest score that you can get on the ASVAB is a 99.
Okay.
And so when you look at your line scores, you want to shoot as close to that 99 as you possibly can, because the higher your score, the more
better job.
The more, I wouldn't say better jobs.
The better job.
The more jobs you're going to qualify for. What's better to you might not be better to somebody else, or
that's true.
So you have to say the more.
Okay. And how would I go about, or someone go about practicing for the ASVAB? Do y'all give them test material to take home? Do you have test websites, or should they just go out and buy like an ASVAB practice book?
There's so much material out there for them to find. But what I recommend is getting a baseline first and understanding where you stand.
Right.
And you can get your baseline in the recruiting office. So what we call is the EST, and that's the enlisted screening test.
Okay.
And it's pretty much just a baseline exam that shows you where you potentially fall or what your score could potentially be when you go take the actual test. What I recommend is a book by Kaplan. It's Kaplan, and every year they come out with, like for right now they're on the 2018-2019 ASVAB study guide.
Okay.
And the book is super thick, so you have to really set aside some time to go through and make sure that you understand the material. And it's thick for a reason. It's because it breaks down each component of the ASVAB to help you do well. And sometimes you run into applicants who have the book and they just can't seem to master the test. And that's okay. You just kind of got to find your weakest areas, because it's going to be different for each applicant.
Right.
You have to find your weakest area and just really take some time to study on that. What I find is that a lot of applicants, they just want to get in,
right,
that they don't take the time to necessarily study. And so what we're left with is, hey, you scored a 55 on the ASVAB, and this is your third attempt. So, and then, they see what jobs they qualify for, and they're like, oh, well, I don't want any of those jobs. Well, then you're going to have to go study. Because either
right,
you join now, or you take the 6 months that you need to go study if you've exhausted your 3 attempts. If you take the ASVAB once, right, and let's say you don't even score high enough to get into any branch, then that's your 1 attempt.
Okay.
You go back 30 days to 45 days later, and you take it again, and let's say you barely meet the minimum. Well, that's your 2nd attempt exhausted, right?
Yeah.
You wait another 30 days, because you can only take them within a 30-day time frame.
Oh, dang.
And you only get 3 attempts over that course of time within 30 days. So 30 days for 1, 30 days for 2, so forth and so on. If you exhaust your 3rd attempt, then you wait 6 months.
Oh.
So and that's what we say. It's not a joke. It's not a game.
Right.
Because this is potentially your career, your future. So it just depends on what it is that applicant is looking for and really how serious they are.
Okay, so still staying on the job aspect of things, open general, is that still a thing?
It's not open general, it's general aptitude. You have an aptitude area for each. Remember I told you the Air Force, mechanical, administrative, general health and sciences, electrical, you have an aptitude area for each of those. So you have an administrative aptitude, you have the general health and sciences aptitude, which is what people refer to as open general. You have your electrical aptitude,
your
mechanical aptitude.
So what are the benefits of going to basic without picking a job and picking a job there in your open aptitude area that you chose versus picking a job with you before they go into basic?
So if you want here's my personal opinion.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you the recruiting opinion because every recruiting opinion is different. But I was open general or open aptitude.
Okay, me too.
And I wanted to be a medic. And at that time, and it's always been this way, the Air Force's mission has never been medical. The Air Force's mission has never been admin. Our job is to, dominate the skies. Our job is air superiority.
Right.
And so if you look at anything that falls in the air superiority category, it's always aircraft. And that is going to be your electrical and your maintenance. And so that's why the Air Force is always continuously hiring for those areas, because that's what we need to keep our aircraft in the sky.
Right.
So when I came in, I said I want to be a medic hands down. And I was pretty much at that point where if I couldn't be a medic, I was going to walk away.
Okay.
But I'm glad that I was able to go into the category of general aptitude, because if you do not want a job within the mechanical or the electrical field, everything else falls within that general category.
Right.
Your intelligence, your supply, your cyber warfare, everything, medical, everything falls within that category.
Right.
What people don't understand is that as recruiters, we get a list of jobs from the big Air Force, you know, from somebody above us,
right,
that says, hey, this is what the Air Force needs for this month.
right.
So our hands are already kind of tied. You know what I mean? Because if we don't have any individuals that want to go into that field, then how do we do our job?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So the benefit to me is you get to choose 2 jobs, right? You choose one in the recruiting office that says, hey, I want a general aptitude contract. Then when you get to basic training, you get another list of jobs that says, this is what the Air Force needs, but it's not based on the recruiting list that we get. It's based on big Air Force at that time. So you have a wider range selection of choosing what it is that you want to do.
I know for me. Oh, go ahead.
And that's how I ended up getting my medical job. My recruiter put me in a general aptitude, and I took my chances. And it worked out in my benefit. Just wanted the opportunity to be able to serve so that I could pursue my education.
Right. I know for me, when I went in, pretty much everybody in my flight was general aptitude, and everybody in my flight pretty much got their first option or their first choice that they picked. I picked supply, and I was happy with that. And all the other people in my flight that were general aptitude got their first pick that they picked. So there is a benefit, I guess, of knowing what job you're going in specifically when you go to basic, and there's also another benefit of going in general aptitude. It's just based on, I guess, what you want to do.
And some people are so set. I understand why, because you hear a lot of rumors, right? You hear a lot of rumors where it's like, oh, if you go to into the general aptitude, then you're going to be a cop.
Yeah.
Let me debunk that myth right now. So as an Air Force recruiter, you can only get a cop job in the office with a recruiter. You can't book that job any longer past that. Really?
Oh,
yeah.
That's good to know.
You have to want to be a security forces personnel. They're not going to give you that job in basic training, because the reality of it is if we put you into a job that you don't want to do, then how does that benefit the Air Force?
Right.
You know, and the idea is to keep you on board serving your country as long as you can.
So a question a lot of people had for me was, can you follow somebody or talk to somebody that is already in the job that you're thinking about doing before you commit to the job?
Ooh, that's a good one. At this time, I don't think there is, unless the recruiter that you are going through has ties with somebody that is in that career field already.
Okay.
You know, whether it's through global or reaching back to your previous assignment. But I definitely think that that's a great idea. Maybe I'll take that idea and run with it.
See? But it would be easier for them to talk with someone in that job versus following, because there's security clearances and stuff like that. So
absolutely,
it'll be much easier to talk with someone in that career field versus being able to go on base and follow them day to day throughout that day of their job. So I guess after you pick a job or after you've taken the ASVAB, you go to MEPs.
Correct.
Right. So what can they expect at MEPs? I know people hear stories about the duck walk and all of that stuff. So what do they expect to do at MEPs?
So MEPs is the Military Entrance Processing Station. And again, no matter what branch of service you are going to, you have to go to MEPs. And what they can expect at MEPs, the way that I break it down to my applicants is simple. It's a head-to-toe medical assessment, like a sports physical, to make sure that you are physically qualified to join military service, to perform military service. The reason that MEPs is there is to catch those individuals who are, who have medical conditions but are trying to slide underneath the radar to potentially have their medical bills paid by the government. So MEPs is there as a
buffer.
To catch those individuals. So anyway, like I said, it's a head-to-toe medical assessment. They examine everything from your eyes to your toes to make sure that you don't have any pre-existing medical conditions that cannot be treated once you get into the service.
Okay. And so then after MEPs, then you move into the DEP program?
Correct. That is the delayed entry program if you make it through MEPs. Okay. And I say if because sometimes people go down to MEPs and they don't know that they know that they have medical issues.
Right.
Right. And that's okay, but you don't want to go down there and lie, because then you look at our core values: integrity first, service before self, excellence in all you do. That is not excellence in anything.
That is not integrity.
That is not what that looks like.
And how long do you stay in the DEP program?
So it just depends. What it's really looked at is your scores in comparison to getting a job, right? So let's say if you score like the minimum score, right? Let's say you had a 36 on the ASVAB.
Okay.
Remember that list of jobs that I told you that came out?
Right.
Well, if you listed 10 jobs that you wanted to do and only 2 of them were available, and they've already been chosen by other recruiters, then that automatically cycles you into the next month for jobs.
You're going to be waiting for a while.
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's why we say, your ASVAB scores determine everything. So make sure you study.
And when you're in DEP, do y'all do things to get people prepared to
Absolutely.
go to basic?
I do with my DEP.
Okay, because I know when I was in DEP, I didn't do nothing.
Well, and I think that's different. It's different from recruiter to recruiter.
Okay.
And I think across the board, it should be, yes, each recruiter should have a delayed entry program call or DEP commander's call, where you get together. And I know specifically in my DEP, I see them once or twice a month, depending on the month.
Okay.
And we get together, we talk about current events, because the reality of the situation is that you're going into military service. And now that if you have not been keeping up on current events or things that's going on in the world, you should be.
Right.
Because you want to know how can these things potentially affect you as an airman. And so I have my DEP commanders call to help inspire them to think more. What if you were stationed in California and now you have a family and you're surrounded by all the wildfires that are going on? Right. How does that affect you and your family? Do you guys need to PCS now to a different base? Or, it's just little things, right?
Right.
We also do some type of physical fitness. I know some of my recruits probably hate me because our job is to help prepare them. If we get them into basic training and they cannot run, then we have failed them. And now that work is on the TIs, and the TI is not always going to have time. Exactly. Because some people come in and they're not where they need to be. So I encourage them, when they're with me, I give them at least 1 to 2 mock PT tests before they go in. Okay. And that's kind of what they can expect when they get there. A 1.5 mile run, push-ups, and sit-ups. And so I time them and I give them the standards of what it looks like and where they kind of fall within.
Oh, this is a good one. What medical conditions or legal issues will prohibit? Yes, will prohibit someone from joining the Air Force.
Just
a short list.
Well, as a recruiter, we can't say, because we don't have the final authority. Right. That final authority rests with the doctors at MEPs. Okay. And if they make it through MEPs, then it goes up to the Surgeon General. So nothing is forever taken off the table. Okay. It really is a 50-50 situation. Okay. Some of the common things that I see as a recruiter, though, are, ADHD, asthma, suicidal ideations. Those are some of the ones that are. Suicidal ideations are a definite no-go. Right. But asthma, ADHD, those are definitely 50-50 because it depends on the case. It depends on when's the last time you took your medication. It depends on, are you dependent on your meds to get you through the day? You know what I mean? So it's really just you can't say this is off the table 100% because it depends on the person.
What about legal?
Oh, goodness. Man, that is like so there's just some things that will...
You can't have felonies, right? Not for the Air Force, can you?
It depends. So the Air Force uses...
Really?
It depends on what the situation is. Okay. Again, it's kind of one of those things that's like a medical condition. Like what if you were in the wrong place at the wrong time with a group of friends? You didn't actually commit the crime, but because you were with them, you got charged with it as well. So you get what I'm saying?
Okay.
So it's
a lot of gray area.
Oh my gosh, it's so much. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I want to know, how often will you deploy?
So what people need to face the reality of is that this is the armed services, and so many times we have people that call in and they're like, well, I want to join the Air Force, but I don't want to carry a weapon. but I don't want to deploy either. And I'm like, well, you might want to rethink your whole thought process, because it just doesn't make sense. And that's another thing too, you know, like you have to look at current events, you have to look at the state of the world. And once you take that oath to protect and defend, you have to have that thought in the back of your head that, hey, I might have to go into a remote place of the world at one point in time. Mm-hmm. Like it's if the Air Force needs you to deploy and you're a capable body, you're gonna go.
Right.
You're gonna go. And here's another thing I would say: if you're one of those people who you only want to come in for the benefits, you only want to see things from your perspective and your point of view only, then you also might want to rethink, because it's not just about you. Mm-hmm. You know. So
people from all different walks of life. So.
Yeah. And if you want my personal opinion, I think everybody should deploy at least once in their career.
I do too. I feel bad for people who haven't deployed that have been in.
I think it will definitely open your eyes. And it just gives you the opportunity to see the world from a different view.
Yeah. What are the education benefits once you join the Air Force?
The educational benefits are unmatched. They really are. And the reason that I say that is because initially when you come in, the Air Force is the only branch of service that has the community college of the Air Force. Right. There's no other service that has that. Mm-hmm. And just speaking from experience, I have 2 community CCAF degrees. One from my career field as a medic, and then 2 from being a recruiter.
Oh, nice.
And somebody might say, well, what does that look like? It looks like any other community college that's out there.
Right.
You know, they teach you a trade, they teach you a skill, and you get certified in that. And with that, the Air Force gives you a degree. Your associate's degree, which makes you that much more marketable on the outside. Right. In the Air Force, a lot of people don't believe it, but the Community College of the Air Force is the largest community college in the world.
Really?
Yes. We graduate. You have to look at all components: Guard, Reserve, all across.
Okay.
So we graduate more students than any other community college.
Okay.
And so, for me personally, I came in for my education.
Right.
And
same.
and I would tell anybody that if you're not out here taking advantage of what the Air Force is going to give you, then you're crazy.
Right.
You're crazy. And you know, that's tuition assistance. That's about, for me, that broke down to about 6 classes a year. Mm-hmm. And somebody might say, well, that's not a lot. Well, you got to take into consideration, you're juggling work, a full-time schedule, you have, and that includes any hobbies. You know, like you don't want to put yourself in overload.
Right.
They've taken me through my Community College of the Air Force degree. They've taken me through my bachelor's, and I just got accepted for my master's. Ooh. Thank you.
And then for me, I got my associates too and my bachelor's. I don't know about my master's. I don't like school, girl.
I feel you on that, but you know what, man? Like, you gotta have a plan.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't, you know, plans will always fall apart, or they'll always get off track some way. But the idea is to, for me personally, is if somebody's gonna give it to me,
take it. Do you have any leaving remarks you want to leave them with?
If you do what you need to do to study, then your scores will pay off. Okay. You know? Right. And if you can't be a medic, then don't just shut the door.
Right.
You know, because a lot of times, as a recruiter, we can only tell you a lot of the surface stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff you won't experience until you get in.
Right.
A lot of the ins and outs. And you know what I mean.
I do.
Like, you know, like, a lot of people don't know that each Air Force base has their own sports team.
Right.
And that's not, like, we can tell you some of this stuff, but in order for you to live it and experience it, you're going to have to go do it.
Right.
And a lot of people will shut down based on what we tell them at that surface level, because they're afraid to see beyond that or go beyond that.
Right.
So if medical is your job of choice and it doesn't go that way, don't shut the other doors of opportunity.
Right.
Because you can get you can still get to your end goal. Like, let's say if you were maintenance, nobody's going to tell you that you can't go to school to be a medical professional.
Exactly.
You know, like, and that's the benefit of having that education. You know, like, so what if your job is maintenance? Then go be the best daggone maintainer that you can be. Right. And still pursue your education for what it is that you want to do, but at least you know that you have a job and a career that pays for your bills or your house or your kids or whatever.
Right.
You know, like, and people get so messed up on that. Like,
I know for me, I thought I wanted to be a medic, but I don't like blood, so I chose.
That wouldn't have worked out well.
Right. I chose supply, and that worked out for me very well. And we met in Turkey.
Yep.
I've been stationed overseas my whole career until now. So the last 6 years I was overseas and traveled the world, did school, seen so many places people only see in books.
Yes.
So there is so much you can get out of being in the Air Force besides, serving your country and doing your job.
Yes.
The Air Force provided me with tons of friends that I have all over the world now, and able to travel and got my education. So like she was saying, don't just shut the door because it's not the job you thought you wanted. You might get that job and not even like it.
Exactly.
You might get the job that you think you would hate and love it. So there's so many jobs out there to choose from. So don't just shut the door on your future and what you could potentially be and potentially see based on not getting the job that you thought you wanted.
And it sounds so cliche, and we hear this all the time, especially like when we decide when we find out where we're going on a PCS assignment.
Right.
And you find out that you're going to Minot, or you find out that you're going to, I don't know, Alaska or somewhere. Mm-hmm. So many times people will tell us, well, it is what you make of it.
Right.
And that is probably my leaving remarks to anybody that wants to join. Mm-hmm. Whether you're joining, like I said, any branch of service, it's going to be what you make of it.
Right.
So if you put 100% in, then you're probably going to get 100% back.
Right.
And it also revolves around just being a good person too.
Yep.
In your day-to-day activities, how you treat people. And it sounds, like I said, so cliche, but it's true. Yeah. And it's real.
Right.
So.
Well, I thank you, Sergeant Grey,
for
coming through and blessing my channel.
Yes,
Thanks
you're
for
welcome.
doing this interview.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's it, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for watching my first episode of Kalivia Chats. If you like this episode, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to see each and every time I upload. And if you want to see more videos like this, tell me about it in the comments below. Tell me what you'd like to see. Tell me if you liked it. And just leave me a nice comment. All right, until next time, guys. Bye.